This lesson, we're going to be calculating out the total weighted value. So we've got a value column, and this is the total for the values. We've got the weight that we're applying to that value. So from A to B is going to be the weight, and that's going to be resulting the total. So this is where we've got the formula, and then we're doing a sum of all of the returned values. And this is done through a customized function within Google Apps Script, and we're also creating a helper function in order to help with the calculations. Open up your spreadsheet, create 3 columns, one that has some random values, second one that has some random weights, so these would be percentages that we're going to be getting of that value, and then an area where we can output the total. So what we're going to be doing is selecting all from A, then from B, and outputting all within an array into C. So let's go ahead and open up our AppScript editor. So under extensions, AppScript, got our AppScript function here, and then we want to create a function called the weighted average, and it's going to take in 2. It's going to have values, and it's also going to have the weights, and we just add a 1 there to distinguish it. So what we want to do is start out by creating an array called weighted average, and just call it weighted average. And this is going to be the array that we're going to be returning. So at the end, we're returning this weighted average array. And we want to populate the array details within the function. So let's loop through. And because we're expecting an array of values within the values and for the weights, let's loop through, letting I equal 0, and then looping through while I is less than the length of values 1 length. So that will create our loop through all of the items within the values array. And then what we want to do is to calculate out the value, and using a function to calculate the weighted average, and you can give it a name, and it's going to take in the 2 arguments. That one is going to be the values 1 from that array, giving an index value of 1, and the second one is taking in the weights 1, giving an index value of I. So it's going to return, and we're going to create a function in order to manage that, and then taking that value, so we want to add it into the weighted average array by pushing it into the array, and this is going to be an array within an array, because it's just going to be one value there, and that's going to be what we've got returned back for value. So now I'll create a helper function that will calculate the weight average, and we're just going to have the value and the weight, because this is going to be singular, and that's what gets passed in. And then we're going to check to see if it's actually a number. So if none, if it is not a number, and with a double negative, that means that we're checking to see if value is a number. And if also check to see if weight is a number. So we need to make sure that they are numbers. And we also have to check to see if weight is not equal to 0, because otherwise we're dividing by 0, and that could throw an error there. So make sure that all of these values conditions are being met, and that means that we can return the value times the weight. If that's not met, then we're just going to return a value of 0. So that will take care of any of the issues in case one of the weights is a letter, or if some of them aren't proper if we're dividing by 0. So that will handle that. So now we're able to set up and run the weights. So add the function formula into the spreadsheet, and we're going to need the list of values, so the array of values, and the matching array of weights, and that will output those values out. So if we update this to weight it at 50%, that will give us half of 8.5. We can update these weights, and then in order to get a total, we can just do the sum total here, that we can total all of the above cells. So that will give us a total of the values, and we can also have a total here of the original value, and then now we've got the weighted values, And then now this is the new total because we're taking 30% of 90, 30% of 70, 50% of 8.1, and that's returning back the value of 53.55. So making any adjustments to these numbers will also affect the output value that we've got within the numbers.